We're an everyday company. We're mom and pop. Every single everyday company has the potential of far more. It's just a matter of exploring what motivates us. Because I think people are motivated by more than providing a living. There's so much more joyfulness we get out of it, and the relationships and connections and other things. So there is huge untapped potential if we look at what could really motivate and tap the latent potential of a group of people who would have a worthwhile endeavor together.
For our listeners, if you could just give us a little bit of a history of Torani when they came to the U.S. and what evolved to the point where you came in about 33 years ago.
Right. We were started by a wife and husband team that went to visit family in Lucca, Italy, and brought recipes back to San Francisco. There was a growing community of Italian immigrants in San Francisco, building the city, doing all kinds of things. And we have a wonderful Italian neighborhood called North Beach. And they made our first flavors by hand, selling it to the local shops in North Beach. And that's how we got started. Very simple, everyday mom and pop. So when I joined the company decades later, we were still a small local company. We had about 8 people. I was person number 9. We were less than $1 million in revenue. And we had a wonderful product, and we were in a neighborhood that really needed employment. That's one of the things that drew me to it. We were in the Bayview Hunters Point neighborhood, which really needed a lot more opportunity. So I was excited at the opportunity to hire people from the neighborhood and work with a wonderful family. They're not my family, but now we're extended family to really grow the company in a very different kind of way. So we took off like crazy from then.
Yeah. Any challenges just earning the trust of the family to do this? You've done such an amazing job. So what was that kind of like going through it?
Well, you come out of business school, you have this experience, you know all these things, and it's a family that you've got to earn their trust. I didn't actually get to look at the books for the first 6 months. It's kind of hard to think about, right? Like, how do you help manage a company and grow a company? But we had to get turned down for a loan from the bank. And then I said, how about you let me take a look at the financials and I can explore why we were turned down.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to hit a bullseye if you can't see the target. So I think it's important to be able to see the financials and really everything else to make the best decisions.
Was traditional in the family style and approach. And I think, I had to earn a place showing the care and trust in the second generation and third generation of the family that was involved for them to trust me. And I grew to absolutely love them. Ray has since passed away. He was a second generation. Lisa is a third generation. She's a chair of our board, and I love her like a sister.
That's so great. So fast forward, how many team members now? And I think you're around 500 million in sales.
Yes, we are. We have about 400 team members. We also have a lot of partners. We go to market with others. So when I think about our business, I think about creating opportunity and success, economic learning, growth, and development for our 400 plus and growing team members, our customers, our partners. It's a circle of success that we're creating. So we really approach business in a different way.
Yeah, I think it's so great. On the financials and being transparent there, in all of my businesses, and I've started 8 from scratch now, largest had about 500 team members. Everybody got all the financials. And for the frontline team members, and you're one of the few I've ever heard say it that way, because frontline team members can create the most value for the companies or destroy it, right?
Right.
But I gave everybody the financials, and we would prepare what we called plain English versions of detailed trial balances.
Exactly. I believe so much in that. And I know that you use a language, team members instead of employees, frontline team members. We use some of the same language, and those words have meaning. And I believe so much in sharing financials with everyone. And it's important for us that all of our frontline hourly team members understand how we're doing. We are in it together. So it's important if people are going to be successful together, and if they're going to be successful in life, teaching financial literacy. at work is a high value endeavor.
Yeah, 100%. You know what I realized is that when team members are distracted with financial issues or health issues, they're
Mm.
way less productively engaged, right? And so I actually have put all of my team members through financial literacy, slash competency training. I also, in one of the companies, put in a 10,000 square foot gym where if they trained 2 days a week for an entire month, we paid 100% of the health insurance premium. And if they brought their family members, we put even more money in their paycheck. And it was crazy what it did to productive employee engagement
Love that.
and just retention, just all the things that we wanted around that. Um, yeah, along those lines, so for the listeners, can you describe what a certified B Corp actually means or is?
Sure. We are certified to a high standard of care about people, purpose, planet. It's a movement, the Benefit Corporation movement, that gets certified. And we go through recertifications. We go through, as a food company, quality certifications and all kinds of things like that. This is one that talks about the standards by which we work. So it's a growing community that has value, with a movement of people who care about the way people conduct their businesses.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And what has it done for you being certified? I mean, it sounds like this is just in your blood. This is the way you run a business. How has the certification actually helped?
Yeah. We looked at it and we thought, should we go through the process and the expense of this certification? Should we put team members' time against this? And we thought, hey, it is in our DNA already. All we need to do is go through the process, make sure all the things are documented properly and that we're sharing information properly. And really, the value in it for us is to join a community of like-minded businesses so that we can learn from them and share practices. And we joined also the conscious capitalism community, the B Corp community, for-purpose businesses. We look at communities of business leaders who are using their business as a force for good. Because when you talk about value, most of the ways we measure business value is through our financials. That's a way we can compare value. But that is such a small aperture. So what I like about the B Corporation community and others that we're involved with is that the aperture is widened to include things that are highly motivational to people to discover a lot more value. And for us, it's about building an opportunity company, one that provides learning, growth, development, and economic opportunity for a lot more people. So I think especially about frontline team members who don't have as much agency in the working world or in the world around us. And if we construct our organizations with a people first lens and use financials as tools to support our learning, growth, and development, it creates sustainable financial success. So I think I've read some of what you've written, Lee, but that's a lagging indicator of our success, our financials. Our leading indicator is the growth, development, the energy of our team.
Yeah. So it's an interesting topic for me because you are fully living it, and I can tell in how you're talking about it, the research that I've done on you and Torani. But there's a lot of companies out there that are, I would call a business virtue signaling to say, look how good we are, so you'll actually do business with us, but they don't really mean it,
Right.
internally. And it seems to be when people talk about, stories like yours, very few companies do this. It's so rare. It's so amazing. I always made a whole lot more money doing all those things together. So material is important, but emotional energy, what it feels like to be at the company, the X factor for leaders, the spiritual value creation, connectedness with all the team members, doing that, we would get 2 to 3x multiples when I've exited companies. So why aren't they doing it? If they realized it, wow, the money would be a lot more and they would feel better because they're doing the other stuff.
I agree. And when we look at it's not the automatic thought process though, and it's not the way we're trained in business. So when I think about, for example, when we needed to relocate our business, we outgrew our facilities. We were located in South San Francisco. We rented all kinds of buildings all around in the neighborhood. We were shuttling things back and forth. We completely outstripped our capacity there. And we put together a team to look at where we should move. And the first thing they did is came to me and to our board and said, well, listen, if we move out of state, Arizona, Nevada, look what it could do to our profitability. We said, hold on a second. If we go through a move like that, consider that the value in our company is our team, the relationships we have with each other, the way we know to work together. We have momentum. Now, sitting where we are today, we have 33 years of year over year, 20% annual growth. That's a momentum that's hard to beat, to go from less than $1 million to over $500 million in annual revenue and to continue to grow in double digits. You don't disrupt those relationships. It's the relationships with each other. It's with our customers. It's with our partners. We're in a rhythm. So if you just look at the financials and said, well, if we cut this out of the rent, if we cut this out of different things, that doesn't lead us to the value. So I really like your lens of looking at value, because if you just look at profitability, you miss what delivers that. So
Yeah.
we made a choice to do a zip code map and figure out where we could move that we could achieve 100% retention. And that's what we did. So we ended up in the East Bay.
Okay.
And then we interviewed literally every person in our company twice to understand what would get them excited about making a move and what they were worried about, so that we could address all of that in our approach and design to how we would move. And we let everyone know 2.5 years in advance of the move so that we could really build it in. And we achieved 100% retention when we moved.
That is so great. Yeah, we all did it together. We should all work together to make the best of it. And if we were to make a move like you're talking about, when we move to another state, we'll do something, it's going to limit the net collective result 1, 2, 3 years out, big time. Like it's going to hurt profitability.
Big time. Yeah. Yeah. And then what ended up happening is our move took place. It was due to begin the middle of March 2020. Well, that was a pretty rough time. And thank goodness we had so many people who knew what to do, knew how to work together, that we could go through the loop-de-loops of COVID and then the supply chain craziness that came after that. We had a team that was so clever and thrifty and smart and collaborative that we managed through that extremely well.
Yeah, it's so much better to do that. But a lot of leaders of organizations are, I don't know, they're afraid or reluctant, but they don't talk to the team about it. Like, here's a big decision that could be made so much better if we included everybody, and they don't do it. Is there a fear there? What do you think's going on?
Well, one of my philosophies is go slow to go fast. And I think what that means for me and for us at Torani is take the time up front to get everybody involved who's part of it. And that when we do that, we align with those folks, we engage them so that they're in it, their fingerprints are all over what we're going to do. We implement so well and quickly that our time to implement and the quality in our implementation is really high. But what I find is when we hire people, especially at this stage of our growth, this stage of mid-market growth, we need to bring in people with talents and capabilities who come from much larger organizations. Because to get to $1 billion and beyond is going to take some new talent. So we promote and develop a lot of folks from within, but it's also that outside talent. But I find that they get frustrated with that upfront approach. They think, we need to go speedily. I know what to do. Here's the answer. Let's do it. And it's the lack of patience up front that gets the better result. So I think it's just a sense of, I know what to do and let's go fast, without understanding that the slower approach with people actually is faster.
Yeah. And there's a danger bringing in larger company folks where they know what to do. They want to go really fast and they don't take the time to learn what really got you here and the value, so they can build on that and not destroy, because unintentionally they could just destroy the culture, which you would never let happen, of course.
Right. Well, I think that's the challenge at different stages of mid-market growth, is how to scale culture. So how not to lose the essence of who we are, that the passion that we have around caring for people, our growth orientation, growth mindset, the way we approach things from people first. So we're very deliberate about our interview processes and going slow in interview processes as well to make sure that people get to know us. And we interview very specifically, not just for experience and doing the kind of work, but alignment with our core values. So those things matter. And then every single person who joins Torani, I onboard around our core values, our history, and our vision and long-term strategy. And I love it. I love doing that. I love spending time with our new team members.
And I've always done that as well. Whether it was weekly or monthly, depending on the size of the business, all the new team members come in. I go through everything, answer all the questions. What a great way to indoctrinate them into the culture. Something that you said earlier kind of sparked something in me. It's interesting how money changes people. So when people have potential to access money in a larger quantity than they had before, even though they say a lot of the right things, it uncovers kind of who they really are and how they think about money. And I remember selling my larger business in 2016, and we got to this point where there's a line where any additional investment comes out of our side of the deal, and so forth. And I said, well, we made commitments to our customers. We have to do this infrastructure investment because we all collectively got here. I thought of our customers as our part of our stakeholders, suppliers.
Right.
And there were 13 internal shareholders that I gave an opportunity for ownership along the way. And probably half of them came back almost screaming like, well, this is coming out of our side of the deal. I said, well, I own the majority of the company. Most of it's coming out of mine. Why would you harm the folks that got us here? And then another short version of it took millions off the top and spread it amongst about 26 leaders to make sure they stayed for at least 2 years. So the transition went well. Same argument. Why are you doing this? This is coming out of our take. I said, well, the majority of it's mine and they got us here. Do you really want to abandon them? Now, half the folks were perfect around this because it was the culture, but the other, I didn't even see it until the deal happened that they were that way with money. Interesting human nature thing. What are your thoughts?
Well, people are funny about money. I am not motivated by money.
Okay.
But I recognize so many people are, and I have to pay attention to that. What I'm motivated by is making a difference. Now, we all need a certain amount of money, right? But I think a lot about how do we share success? Mm. And that is part of our culture, is to have a team and stakeholders with shared success. It's integrated into who we were and are. So when one of the family members of the founding family, the grandson of the founding family, passed away, unfortunately, young with pancreatic cancer. When his beneficiary wanted, like, let's sell the company so that we can cash out, and we thought, all this value we built and the care and joy that we have work with our team members, the people we've seen grow up, have families, set their families on a different kind of trajectory. We care so much about that. And we said, how about this instead? How about we agree on a threshold value and you allow us to make the choice as to who would be the investor? So when we interviewed potential investors, we worked with an impact investment bank, Big Path Capital, and we put together a role profile for investors that was about interviewing for people who would make decisions the way we do, which is based on long-term sustained value that operates with a people-first mentality. And we have an example right now where we had an opportunity with an adjacent property to invest in another 200,000 square feet to expand our distribution center. Rare opportunity. We need it. They were ready to go for it with us. They turned out to be exactly the right people to join our board. They do behave like us and think like us with long-term value creation. And what made that moment even better is that we had the opportunity to buy 10% of the company ourselves to turn into an employee stock ownership plan. So now every single person who works at Torani also owns part of Torani, which is a thrill to create not only income for people, but wealth opportunities for people.
That's so great. And the founding family still has significant ownership?
Yes.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember when I sold my larger business in 2016, for 7 months straight, I met with all the employees every month and said, "We're thinking about doing this. What do you think?" In the first month, 20% were like, "No way." It scared them.
Yeah.
But there were two people that said they absolutely didn't want to do it. So out of 500, it's like, we're going to do this. There's opportunities everywhere. And not one word of that got out into the press that we were going to do. And I thought that was a pretty interesting culture. It was, for me, I didn't even think about it as I just said, "Hey, keep this private. We're thinking about doing it."
Right.
But it speaks to culture, right? That you can,
Yes. And look at what you did there, that you spent the time personally in that, right? Talking with folks, reflecting with them, gaining their input and insight to come to a decision. That takes time and care that I also value. When we made this decision and when we moved in this direction, we made a point of talking to every single person in the company. We met in small teams, talking through what we were doing, where we were going, what role they would play in it, where the opportunity was for them and for all of us as a company, how we looked at it, and it enrolled people in where we were headed. It takes a lot of extra time, and I think I think more people would do it if they understood the huge latent potential in our teams when they're engaged in that way.
yeah, I could never not take the time. Like, it had to be done. That was in my bones as well.
Right.
And it worked out. And we found an amazing strategic buyer, and they've been a great stewards of the company now for, gosh,
Oh,
coming up on 10 years here in 26. Couldn't be prouder. I still follow at least 100 of the team members, and we were in 60 countries doing business at the time I sold it. And these folks are working all over the world in different, divisions of the company that bought them or bought us. And I just say, yeah, when we take the time, I think it's absolutely amazing with the team members.
that's so good. So the soul of it, the soul of what you created is still there.
It's different because it was I call it a small, large company that bought us. And they have a bit more command and control and silos and all of that. But
Mhm.
there's still something about the soul that stayed, and it's really cool. And again, it's a great brand, great reputation globally. Love what they've done with it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think the command and control is an interesting thing versus collaboration, and engagement. And what we're really endeavoring to do is, at this stage, when we have when we're approaching 500 team members, a lot of that can change. So we have to be really deliberate about how we work together and put a lot of time and energy into that, which is where I put a lot of my time and energy, is to make sure that we navigate through this stage correctly. And we point to a North Star, talking about where are we going in 2030? What does that look like? What's going to change? What are the breakthroughs it will make? What difference will that make for our customers, our community, for us? And what stays the same? And spending a lot of time around that and building the change readiness of our team to get there.
yeah. I used to think of it as when I looked at leaders, like how you show up, and then your foundational readiness for growth. And then from an operating system standpoint, what are the rituals and practices that cause the most value to be created?
Right.
I thought about, like, every single team has to be ready to grow at least 20% at any point in time. And how ready are you? And I would give everybody a score. You're doing something kind of like that, because 20% year over year growth, that's going to be pretty crazy 4 years from now, at $1 billion ish, and keep going. So how are you planning for that?
So, we first of all, we have the experience of it. So we got it in our DNA. We know what it looks like. It means a lot of change. So, um, we have really engaged focus and strategic direction across the team. So we focus in on a few key strategies and efforts, and have highly cross-functional collaborative teams working together on those. And when we think about growing 20% a year. And maybe it'll be 14%, maybe it'll be 20%. Last year it was 30%. So it can be a range. When we go past 21% into hypergrowth, that's a stretch for our team. But at 20% and a little bit lower, as long as people have a growth mindset, as long as we continue to learn, and that's been a really fundamental practice that we have, is how to learn our way into the future. So we've formalized a process of learning as teams when we're looking at really big initiatives. So even to get to 500 million, we did a whole mid-market learning journey where we looked at who are the companies that went past 500 million to a billion. What did they do? What struggles did they face? And we sought them out and we met with people. We talked with them as teams. We learned from people who'd made great effort and had some big mistakes that they could share with us. People who'd stumbled and found different ways. We learned so much from that. And it prepares us. It gives us a little foresight. And we can do that around a new technology implementation, around social engagement practice. We can do that around all kinds of things. So we're very learning oriented.
Yeah. It feels to me like you're at a really fun stage where you're big enough where you can just see things that need to be optimized and just look at the pieces and make really smart decisions going forward. Is this fun for you? I get the sense you're having fun.
I love it. I love it. And I don't know how many people can say that and actually love people they work with. I feel grateful, joyful, just filled with love every day. I truly love so many folks here. And when I think about, we have very low turnover, which is an important key performance indicator for us, is to have high retention. And when I look at somebody who's been with us for 25 years, who maybe started picking orders in the warehouse or started out in manufacturing, maybe came from a very challenging background, and see them grow, develop, get a little wind under their wings, have some successes, and end up being a leader in the organization. I don't get a bigger thrill than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually believe the highest or most unrealized value creation potential is in low income and middle income families, mostly low income, because the drive is there. And a lot of frontline team members are not given the chance. And that's something that's cool about my journey, is folks that started just moving boxes.
Right.
Senior vice presidents, owners, made millions of dollars selling, one or more of the companies. It's like there's so much there, and yet companies are hesitant to give them the opportunity. And so I could personally care less where somebody went to school. What I care about is how you can create value and how you work with others to do it.
Right. Same here. And I think talent is evenly distributed. Opportunity is not. So we have the opportunity as businesses to create so much more value in that. I really believe that businesses can and should create more opportunities for people. It's just not in our thinking yet. And I've been so involved inside in growing the company. We started to realize we've built a lot of practices that really support opportunity creation, and we need to put it together in a way to share it with other like-minded companies so that we can all learn together and build more of that, because it makes a difference in people's everyday work. And it creates agency in people who haven't had that experience. And that makes such a difference in their life trajectories.
So if we create a culture that has an opportunity component to it, that unlocks so much value to be created on the material side and everything else. I think this would be a big lesson for all of our listeners that are leading organizations to think about that opportunity, and it's everywhere. And I remember one of the few leaders that I had to fire as a leader came to me one day and said, well, these people can never do more than that. And I said, well, with that mindset, you can't be a leader here. And that was the end of it. I know you say fire slow, but I went after it fast, and I was like, you can't have that mindset. Anybody can do anything. Maybe they're on track to do it in half the time it took me to do it. Some of them are on track to do it in 300 years, but they all can do it and go in that direction. What's your philosophy around that?
Yeah, I would agree. I do have in Silicon Valley where we're right next to part of Silicon Valley. There's this mentality of hire fast, fire fast. And I couldn't disagree more. First of all, I think it's important to take the time up front to get to know a candidate. And if we're looking at somebody who's at an executive level, we actually have them facilitate a brainstorming session. And with real life team members and with a real life issue, because they get to see what it's like to work with our team. And what I've heard from the people who join our company is that made a huge difference for them in seeing what it would be like to work here. But so hire slow, be engaged up front. It's not about one person, the hiring manager, making a decision. It's a team-based sport, hiring. Now, when I say fire slow, what I mean is I've worked with people who would rather fire somebody than give them feedback. I find that to be very common when I talk with people across other companies. And what I mean by fire slow isn't to fire somebody slowly, but it's, my gosh, take the time and effort to know how to provide positive and constructive feedback. Give somebody an opportunity, turn over every stone for their potential success. Give them the feedback so they have the chance. And that takes a lot of building. So it's that, and I believe truly that we turn over every opportunity, and if somebody can't make it, then they're not meant to be here. They're not in the right spot, and we might look for something else inside the company. So that's what I mean by that. It's that if we need to separate, we need to separate because it's not working. But if it's because the person hasn't been provided the proper feedback, we've got to start there.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, when it's not right, we need to make a change and be candid, treat them like adults.
Right.
And this feedback where leaders are afraid to give certain feedback, why do we even bring that energy to it? And so I love what you talked about, contribution conversations going through this. I've done something similar. I call it performance snapshots. Everybody should know where they stand, what's expected around performance 100% of the time. If not, that's a fault of, I think, mine in a company. And so when it's not working and they agreed to perform at this level and they're way below the line where it wouldn't work out, they knew that when they started. And then let's help them find another job, right? I mean, let's follow them. I started this, almost, I guess 22, 23 years ago, where if an employee leaves for any reason whatsoever or no reason at all, you have to follow them for at least a year and check in.
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
And when the employees, and I've talked about this before on the podcast, but when they're really, really disgruntled, I would say, give them to me to follow. And they would yell at me and say, yeah, it wasn't the right cultural fit. How's it going now? Is it a better fit? And those employees, if they went to a prospective customer, they were sending us business within a year.
Right.
Or would have happened without that kind of policy.
Right. I like that. I think that shows a lot of care also, which I really like. And we have contribution management. I put a big red circle line through it on traditional performance management. I think it is, I don't know anybody who's ever really enjoyed a performance review, or people in a company when it's performance review season, there's a collective groan, because it feels like a write-up of a process to justify a pay increase. And we kept thinking, what can we do? How can we do this entirely differently so that it becomes developmental? So we have contribution management or contribution conversations. It follows a similar process to performance. However, the mindset is completely different. And it's to make sure that the individual has agency and the manager becomes more coach and helps reflect. So yes, you set goals together. Yes, you track goals together, but it's not a telling of the manager. It's the use of inquiry. It's the use of appreciation. And at least a quarter of the conversations in the formal conversations and in one-on-one should be about the individual's development. What are their goals for learning and growth and development? how can you as a manager support them in that and help them find that potential? And what that's done inside of Torani is not only help people grow and be ready to grow 20% a year, because that's what it takes. It takes each person being able to kind of double their capacity, because every 4 years we've doubled in size. So I think about that for myself, and I do a contribution process with our chair of the board. And I am always thinking about, what do I need to develop in myself as a leader to be the kind of leader I want to be, that I want to be capable of being when we're twice the size, twice the complexity, and hopefully many times the impact. So we do that throughout the organization. And then it also enables career mixology, which is what we call when people move around within the company. Because maybe, especially if you're a fairly young person, you might be a rock star food scientist, but you might not want to stay in food science, even though you have a food science degree, you're really great at it. You might want to try marketing or planning or something else. And we make that possible here. And it means that we have people who develop a broader perspective of the business. So it's hugely successful for us to have that opportunity. So we always say, we hope that as you're growing and developing, your next best opportunity is here. And we want to help you find that. If it's not, we support you on your journey to where you're going next.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important parts about growing, to be healthy. It's opportunities for everyone.
Yeah.
A lot of leaders of organizations have told me, and I've worked with a number of them, where they say, well, we just make this basic thing or that provide this service. We can't have any real purpose. And I always kind of go back to, could there be much greater purpose in helping families support themselves?
No, it's true. So we're an everyday company, right? We're mom and pop. Every single company, every single everyday company has the potential of far more. It's just a matter of exploring what motivates us. Because I think people are motivated by more than providing a living. There's so much more joyfulness we get out of it, and the relationships and connections and other things. So there is huge untapped potential if we look at what could really motivate and tap the latent potential of a group of people who would have a worthwhile endeavor together.
Yeah. Yeah, love all of that. The security, the connections, camaraderie, the emotional energy, all of that, fits in. And doesn't matter what a company does, you have the potential to do that. So I love the way you're thinking about it. How are you driving? We talked a little bit earlier about scaling culture and keeping it. How did you think about designing culture? Did you have to change it when you came on board? And then how are you thinking about scaling it double, triple from where you're at today?
I love that question. Well, some culture was already here when I arrived here, right? Like there was already a history and a way of doing things. So when I started, Built to Last had just come out, and I'd actually taken classes with Jim Collins and Jerry Porras and thought, okay, so we can identify our core values. So we sat down first and we looked at the history of the company. We said, all right, we were founded in 1925. We went through the Great Depression. What happened? How did we behave? How did the family and the people who worked in the business behave when we hit hard times? When did we hit hard times? When did we hit good times? When did we go through changes? And what were the key elements of that? And then we talked about what was important to each of us personally. So Harry Lucetta, who was the son-in-law of the founders, the most wonderful man who's since passed away, his daughter, who's now our chair of the board, Lisa Lucetta, and myself. And we sat down and we identified what motivated us deeply personally. And then we put that together with the history and we generated our core values. And then I worked on the language a little bit, shared it, and then went to the few people in the company at the time and said, does this sound to you like who we are? And how would you say it? And then, and we've lived with that ever since. So we hire by those, we use that language, we pause and consider them when we're making decisions. So the core values provide the root structure for our culture. And then it's as we grow, and like I said, I onboard all team members to that. And when I'm onboarding on our core values, I don't present the core values. I might have a group of 4 or 5 team members and ask them, they've all been through an interview process, no matter what role they are. And it could be that a VP of manufacturing is there along with a frontline team member from the warehouse and a new person in R&D. And it's a mix of people. And all of them have gone through an interview process. All of them have some experience. Maybe they've been with the company a week. Maybe they were here as a contractor or a temporary team member and they joined. And then I asked them, why did you join? What has been your experience here? You have experience in other places. What is it that stands out to you about the way we do things here that you value and that makes you want to be here? And they always share something related to our core values without knowing them.
Yeah. Well, it's no surprise.
Related.
Yeah. No surprise your retention is as high as it is. Because even through tough times, you stuck with everyone. They know you have their back. You're not going to abandon them like a lot of businesses
Yes.
would out of fear or just not proper planning. So as I understand it, 100 years in, pretty small until you came along, but in all the years, never a formal layoff ever.
Never a layoff.
And I like to think about making a business recession proof. And, I think about aerospace. We had our 9/11.
Right.
Where we were after market repair and overhaul, and most of our competition went down significantly or out of business. And we actually grew because I designed it to be recession proof. Is that how you think about it and how Torani's been able to get through this?
I think about it from the perspective of people who come from really challenging backgrounds. There is a lack of stability and reliability in their experience that it destabilizes them in their lives. And if we can have a safe place where they don't have to worry about that anymore, they can contribute, they have full benefits, we have their backs, they have ours. And I think a lot about how we hire on the curve, not ahead of the curve when it comes to the number of people. And that when we hit hard times as we have, like we had the Great Recession, and not only did we have the Great Recession, we had a business downturn at that point in time too. Our business model, basically, we call them eras of growth. Our era of growth had worn out. We needed some fresh context and a fresh strategy. We hit that. We hit COVID. Even through the Great Depression, we talk about how if we're going to make it, we're going to make it together. So we go through financial scenario planning to say, how do we have full employment? What are the choices that we're going to make so that everyone has a job? And then we know if we take care of our team will take care of our customers and our network of stakeholders, so that, that focus expands to that whole circle of success. And our team knows that, and they care about that. And people who come from really tough circumstances, whether it's that they came from homelessness or incarceration or another situation, that removes a limiting factor on their ability to move forward. That fear removed makes a difference for people. So I think a lot about those kinds of things and how we build a safety net for those team members. So it means that we have to be smart about how we grow, and we have to think through what our different scenarios might be if we hit some struggles. And we think about that and we plan around that. And our executive team is all in on figuring those things out. So when we hit COVID, we had to do that. We said, oh my gosh, our customers are closing their doors.
Yeah.
Moving, we have 1 foot in our new facility and 1 in our old facility. We can't afford 2 leases. What are we going to do? So we did financial scenario planning. We looked at what happens if the business goes down by 20% for the year. We just looked at worst case. Then we looked at 40%, 50%, and we figured out what choices we would make. And then, like you talked about, Lee, you could turn to the team and talk with everyone and say, here's what we've done. Here's what we've figured out. Everyone has a job. The only way we're going to make it is together. And here's where we need your help.
Yeah.
And we went about it. We did decline by 20% in April, but then we took off. And our team was amazing, amazing.
That's so cool. Yeah, there were two times where I went to the team and said, I know we can get through this. I don't have all the answers, but I know we'll come up with it together. Let's go.
Yeah.
And if we don't figure it out, what's at stake could be 30-40% of the jobs. But I don't think we have to worry about it if we really double down. I was always big on let's be super honest with everyone, and they all rose to the challenge. At least both of those times they did, and we didn't have to lay anybody off. It was fantastic.
Yeah. And you're talking about honesty and confidence together. And I think both of those need to go together in a situation like that. And the confidence can be backed up by having done the work behind the scenes to know how we go about it.
Yeah. And again, for those that are so into it's all about the numbers, the dollars, et cetera, not doing what you and I are talking about here is limiting their ability to have consistent growth, year over year in
Right.
the profitability part of it too.
Yeah. I got a call during COVID from somebody that had done some project work with us and said, I just got laid off. Our company's going through big layoffs. And they were a reputable firm. And they said, I imagine you guys are going through that right now too. And I said, that would be the last thing we would be doing. We're doing scenario planning to make sure that everyone makes it together. And we know that that will make a difference for our team, of course, but also our customers and our partners. We're in it, all of us together.
Yeah, love that. What gives you joy and fulfillment? You seem very fulfilled, which is for me, my personal most important number is internal fulfillment. I can't be happy all the time, but I can be more and more fulfilled over time. It seems to steadily grow, and I love that. But what brings that for you?
I in my personal life and at work, there's an integration and a care about um, helping people with agency and opportunity and connection. And when I think about the people here at Torani, we have people who are born and raised in over 35 different countries, come from all walks of life, from all different kinds of backgrounds, geographies, socioeconomic backgrounds. And I love that we can come together and be so productive and so strong and to build so much opportunity. But the thing that matters most is the connection that we have and the stories that we share and the people that we meet and that we can work side by side. I couldn't be happier than to have that in my life. And my family feels the joy of that. And we experience that in our family as well and in our community of friends. I love that we're building community through the way we work and lead our lives.
Yeah. And I think it's one of the biggest things that's been more and more missing is solid community. Certainly in the United States, but I think in the world as well.
I think so too. And what I love about an opportunity company is it's for everybody. It's for everyone. And we have people of all different kinds of political beliefs, different kinds, everything here. And I welcome all of it because as long as we share our core values around caring about people, about grow, baby, grow, which is my mantra, but also one of our core values, about the way we approach things, we are good.
Yeah.
And I love that. We know how to bring people together in that way. And we need more of that.
Yeah. And you volunteer as well. You like to give back. So I did a little bit of research. So She Can, as well as the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge or the issue for our listeners that they're trying to solve for at the She Can nonprofit?
She Can stands for Supporting Her Education Changes a Nation. And it's a mentoring organization that supports young women from post-conflict countries. So I'm on the board of She Can. We formed a mentor team at Torani around a young woman from Rwanda. So we support young women from Rwanda, Cambodia, Liberia, and Guatemala. We get them a team of mentors from the US, typically 5. We help them apply to and win a scholarship at a college in the US, and then get them back to their home countries to make a difference. And these are young women from low opportunity families by their country's standards, not by US standards, but their own country. So Noella from Rwanda Her mother sold bananas in the marketplace. And Noella is so smart and competent and capable. She got a scholarship to Wellesley College. It was a pure joy to be her mentor and to be a team of mentors around her, of colleagues who work together. I got to see people that I work with in an entirely different way as mentors. And it was really fun. Noella's now back in Rwanda. She's doing amazing work there. I now have a new mentor team around a young woman named Barbs, who's at Syracuse University. And it's so joyful. And I love going to Guatemala and spending time with these young women from these different countries. It's building a network of very supportive people lifting each other up across the globe. And it's not just the young women who it feels amazing to be connected with them and see them thrive when they go home, but it's also the connection of the people, a lot of women and quite a few men who are so mutually supportive, welcoming of people with all the talents and capabilities. So we support each other as well as mentor these amazing young women.
Oh, that's so great. From our conversation today, there's so many takeaways for me, but I really love that if you bring a senior leader on board, have them facilitate something, a brainstorming session, whatever. I used to do something called chemistry checks. It's like just coming to meet with people you're going to work with. If even one person has a gut feeling but can't articulate it, that we shouldn't hire them, then we don't hire them. And it worked so well going through. Was there anything in this conversation that kind of stood out for you?
What I like, Lee, is you ask questions that get at the root of things, and it causes me to reflect on things like what is the origin of how we do things? And so I'm going to be thinking about some of the questions that you asked, because there are the roots of things that grow. And I appreciate those kinds of questions that you ask.
Oh, well, thank you for that. And I want to really understand and also simplify everything, do less better, do those things really well, and we can grow. I'm assuming you've looked at the growth potential for Torani, and can it be 10 billion? I mean, what is the addressable market and how you think about the potential? And would you have to add additional products potentially? I think you have 1,500. How many flavors do you have today?
We have over 150 different flavors, but we have them in different formats and different kinds of things. So we have some new products that'll be coming to market. We definitely have potential past $1 billion. Our preferred growth rate is somewhere between 14 to 20% a year, because we know our team can stretch with us to do that. And what I love is building a company with people who stretch and grow together. I mean, can we have periods of doing more than that? You bet. But to sustain the crazy kind of growth and infuse too much cash and investment in to grow for growth's sake, that would outpace the people and that would defeat the purpose. So paced growth is really important.
Yeah, I always think about it as responsible growth, and that's our job, is to responsibly continually grow the value. Go too fast. We had 1 year of 98% growth, just about killed everybody. It was crazy.
Yeah, we went through that here too. It does. It really does. And most companies, when we go through these transitions, and I see certain mid-market hurdles, like 50 million required really different leadership than 10 million, 100 million, 250, 500. I hear $1 billion is the next place. I can't wait to try that one out. But the way we operate as leaders needs to change. And we want people to be able to stretch and grow rather than have a turnover and just say, okay, everyone out, right? So it means, though, that we have to constantly push ourselves to grow and learn, to be ready for the next stage, because we're going to have to operate differently.
Yeah. Well, I know for sure you've added a lot of value for our listeners. Have you thought about a book? There's so much wisdom there that's still evolving. I would be the first consumer of your book if you would put it together.
Yes, we've been talking about that a little bit because we want to document some of the practices that we have and share them in a way that we can also learn from others, because there's so much more that we can do together to explore this realm that brings so much more potential to people.
Yeah. Well, if you ever want help collaborating on that, let me know. I would love to help.
Great. I will reach out.
I think it's amazing what you're doing. Thank you so much for being here. We're coming up on our hour, and I can't believe how fast it went by. So thank you so much, Melanie.
Thank you, Lee. I really enjoyed the conversation so much.
All right. And this has been the Show Your Value podcast. If you got value out of today's episode, please like and share and subscribe. And until next time, show your value to the world.